This presentation is about electronic privacy, aimed at, for instance, a real estate attorney seeking to establish reasonable expectation of privacy, for client-attorney privilege, for an immigration client, or a journalist trying to protect confidentiality of sources. It is not intended to provide tools for a post-apocalyptic scenario in which the rule of law has broken down. In general, those tools do not exist. Everything I say in this tutorial is openly accessible on the internet to anyone with a browser and expertise, for example a typical computer science undergraduate. This is intended to collect together all of the gobbledygook in one place and make it accessible. Some principles. What is the difference between privacy and anonymity? Privacy relates to the content of communications. If it is private, then when Alice talks to Bob, Eve the eavesdropper cannot tell what was said. In general, this is fine for attorney-client relations. Habeas corpus pleadings will have the name of the attorney and the name of the plaintiff. A reasonable expectation of privacy is required to preserve attorney-client privilege. Journalists often require anonymity. Eve must not know who Alice is. If there are a finite number of potential sources for an email dump, and it is published in The Guardian, then if anyone can be seen to have uploaded a large file to The Guardian, then they look like the leaker. All security is on a sliding scale. These tools will make it harder to break security, but not impossible. Ross Ulbricht and Chelsea Manning both went to prison. More about this later. Nation-state actors have tremendous resources and can threaten to imprison or even kill targets. A password will not protect you if the person you are communicating with is threatened with enough consequences. As Mao said, you must move amongst the people as the fish in the sea. Do not be a big enough target that you are worth pursuing. We all know that viruses and other malware are a big problem. Podesta's email was cracked because he clicked on a link to reset his mail password. He actually was suspicious enough about it to refer it to a staffer who wrote that the link was legitimate instead of illegitimate. The site he went to was fake, and once he typed in his old password, they had him. Do not click on links, type them in yourself. Do not open attachments even from people you know unless you are expecting them. Nation-states and criminal networks have bounties for zero-day attacks exploits that have never been used, and therefore McAfee and Kaspersky have no signature for. Remote access tools can capture your keystrokes, screenshots, camera files. A school district in Philadelphia installed rats in student laptops on the pretext of retrieving them if they were stolen. The employees who did that then used it to spy on students in their bedrooms. Email is very easy to forge. If you get an email from a sibling that they have been arrested and need you to wire money via Western Union for bail, it's probably a scam. We will cover PGP in a later slide. It can be used to authenticate the source of a mail. For passphrases, use 4 unrelated English words. 20,000 to the 4th power, much more combinations than using $sign for S in password. All good security is open source. Open source means developed by community of computer experts, for free. Anyone can read source code, money is to check for problems. International community makes insertion of holes by nation-state actors almost impossible. Windows started with a model of computers that were dedicated to individuals, personal and isolated. Security was never baked in. Attempts to add security after the fact always seem to leave holes. Magazine reviews of antivirus products talk about the percentage of known viruses that they protect against, let alone the unknown ones. Macintoshes are pretty secure. The operating system grew up in academia, where computer science students were motivated to hack them just for fun, or to change grades. Unix survived. Apple has added proprietary security on top of that. Linux is arguably the most secure. Arguably an Apple engineer might present good arguments on their side. It is open source. Anyone with the skill and time can look at the source code, make improvements or fix bugs, and submit them back to the authors of that particular piece of code. Many eyes are better than just a few, and who knows whether the few have checked out every possibility, or even been subverted. Linux runs on pretty much any PC, and is a good way to rejuvenate an old Windows PC that is running very slowly. Software is free. With the Ubuntu version, you can set it up so half the hard drive stays Windows, the other half is dedicated to Linux, and you choose at boot time which to boot. Free to install, but typically corporations pay Canonical Software or Red Hat for technical support. Individuals generally use community forums. The Tails distribution puts everything on an encrypted USB thumb drive that you can put into an EPC. Nothing goes on the hard drive. Linux Office applications, documents, everything stays on the USB. Different computers have different keys to press when starting up to boot from USB. Signal Messenger. If there is one thing that you should take from this presentation, it is to use Signal Messenger for texting. Very simple to use, handles regular texts just like any texting application, but when both of you are Signal users, the message is encrypted. Used by Edward Snowden, it's easy and secure. You can even set messages to automatically delete themselves. Get it from Google Play or the App Store, like any other app. Make it the default SMS application when you install. OpenWhisper deletes the from and to information as soon as the connection is set up, and when presented with a subpoena, we're only able to confirm that a user had registered Signal. In principle, if OpenWhisper got hacked, your metadata might not be secure, but content would be. Download Signal even if you don't need it. The more of us have it, the more liars and journalists will be hidden in the sea. Of course, it is useless if the authorities, like in Mumbai, take the cell towers down, or if massive crowds overwhelm the cell system. It could be prone to denial of service attack. Egypt is currently trying that. Of course, encrypt your phone default on iPhone, go to settings in Android, and lock with a passphrase or pattern. In US you can't be forced to use your finger, but not to give out a password. Have SMS and MMS on, and turn screen security and to avoid texts being visible when phone is locked. Use HTTP or HTTPS in the URL area in your browser. When you see HTTPS and a green lock icon, an eavesdropper on the network cannot tell the contents of your conversation, for instance your banking passwords. Any site that requires personal identification should be HTTPS. Of course, if you have been hacked with a keylogger, or the site you are talking to has had a SQL injection attack, all bets are off. HTTPS only gives you privacy, not anonymity. You do not have reasonable expectation of privacy at work, and corporations routinely deploy spyware such as blue coat proxies to monitor employees. Your bank accounts can be hacked by rogue employees in your data security department. Don't bank at work. Use DuckDuckGo.com instead of Google. Google logs your searches, and download the Tor browser. Your HTTP and HTTPS requests get encrypted, bounced all around the world, and then get sent to the real website. This conceals your IP address and encrypts even HTTP conversations. It is somewhat slower, and not all websites work. Fancy sites use Flash, even fancier ones have both Flash and non-Flash versions. Does not really work with Gmail, use a VPN instead, more about that later. Nothing is 100%. Playpen was an everyday child pornography site on the dark web, only accessible via Tor. Over 100,000 pervs. The FBI took control of the site and controversially kept it up for 13 days, continuing to serve out hard candy. Tor uses a custom version of Firefox, and the FBI used a zero-day exploit to capture IP addresses, leading to 135 arrests. VPNs take an TCP/IP traffic, not just web browsing, and sends it via a proxy server. Similar to Tor, but different. Can be used for instance for BitTorrent, to download pirated copyright material, or on BBC iPlayer content, only accessible from United Kingdom addresses, or to access Gmail. Unlike Tor, you are relying on your VPN provider to not keep logs. Take the case of Silk Road, which used to be the biggest drugs, firearms, and murder for hire marketplace on the dark web. Ross Ulbricht was about as careful about his security as anyone could be, but there are always holes if you are a big enough target. Early in using the handle, Altoid he was astroturfing, asking people if Silk Road was any good, when in reality, what he was trying to do was drum up business. Later as Altoid he advertised for a programmer and gave his real Gmail address. That was probable cause he was using a VPN from a library Wi-Fi, but the VPN was logging his IP address talking to his servers in Iceland. The FBI took him down hard, and he did not have time to hit the kill switch, so his hard drive was still unlocked. Life sentence, no parole. Do not be a big target. All it takes is one mistake. Chelsea Manning did everything right technically, but then boasted about what she had done in a chat room. The other guy was a genuine hacker, but had been turned by the FBI. Says it all. Use Veracrypt in Windows, or if you need to share cross-platform, use native facilities on Mac or Linux. Turn on whole disk encryption if possible, otherwise scraps of documents may find their way into a swap file. When email standards were being set in the 70s, no attention was paid to security. With PGP, the contents of the mail can be made secure, but not the metadata, including for historical reasons, the subject line. PGP encrypted mail is very private, but not anonymous. It is therefore suitable for a lawyer talking to a client, or a journalist talking to an editor, but not for a source seeking to remain anonymous, where even the existence of communication needs to be concealed. Mailvelope is an extension to Chrome and Firefox, which provides a graphical user interface. For PGP you still need to understand the principles of operation, but you do not need to use the command line anymore. It only works with a limited number of mail services, but does include Gmail and Yahoo. Public keys are used to send messages to you. Everyone who wants to send an encrypted mail to you needs that public key. You can store it on a server, send it to them through regular mail, on a thumb drive, whatever. Your private key corresponding to your public key should only be known to you. If you lose it, if your laptop is stolen or destroyed, you will be unable to read mail sent to you with your public key. Save a copy. Now for the demo. Settings. Extensions. Mailvelope. Mailvelope. Generate your public and private keys. Now look up the public key of someone to send mail to. Start composing mail like usual. Remember, subject line is not encrypted. Click on pencil and paper icon. Encrypt an attachment into a .asc file, then attach the ASC file. To decrypt mail, just click on the lock icon. To decrypt attachments, download the SC file, and then decrypt it. If you leak, make sure you are not being logged as a visitor to that site. Nothing is more suspicious than being the only person in your office who reads The Guardian, only to have your leak appear there. These sites have great instructions on how to leak to them. Remember that this is journalism. Has to be newsworthy. USPS may be the safer method. Even if the cell towers are down, phones have the physical circuitry to communicate about 220 feet using their Wi-Fi. FireChat uses this and gets longer range by relaying through multiple 70-meter hops. Protesters used it to great effect in Mumbai. But if it is cracked, then you would be convicting yourself with your own phone. Briar is not ready yet. Anonymous mailers are good for cyberbullying. Kind of complicated to use, not for mere mortals. Telegram may or may not be secure. Certainly a big target, due to its use by ISIS. It allows individual and group messaging. Proton Mail is secure between Proton Mail users. Will be more useful if they make it to PGP with non-Proton Mail users. Conclusions. Don't put anything on a computer. Don't use the internet. Who cares if they need a warrant, an administrative subpoena, a national security letter, whatever. It's just paperwork. If they get it wrong, then they might not be able to use it in evidence against you, so what they will just use parallel construction, or inevitable discovery, or persuade the judge that it was a good faith mistake. And if they lose a case, they change the rules, so they do not lose the next one. Aaron Swartz was offered a plea deal of 6 months in the Fed pen. He chose instead to take his own life. He knew in advance that what he was doing was unlawful. He decided that it was his right to unilaterally take down JSTOR, rather than pursue lawful means. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime.